So, thanks so much for coming on. I usually just encourage people to start maybe in their younger years. What was something interesting about your childhood, your upbringing?
So to give a little bit of a backstory, my name is Cheyanna Brown and I am 35. My childhood, I was born in Prosser, Washington, and my childhood was challenging to say the least. I experienced both my parents were in active addiction.
Wow. Okay.
My dad was a heavy meth user and any other drug that he could get his hands on. My mom dabbled, but more was a heavy drinker, partier, biker chick. My dad was a terrible human.
Oh, okay.
He spent most of my life in prison for abuse in some form or drugs in another. I do have an amazing stepfather, though, that was also a drug addict and heavy alcoholic and
wow,
a
okay.
biker and angry and abusive at times. And
Okay, that's interesting you describe him that way, but you like your stepfather a lot more than your biological father, it sounds like, right?
yeah, my biological father raped me when I was a child, and I didn't remember it until after he died. But
Dang,
when he
okay.
died, I had suppressed memories that I had to handle with therapy and
Oh, wow, okay.
move on with my life.
That is really tough. And what were the ages of some of these things happening?
I don't remember the exact time frame for my dad raping me, but it was like around 2 to 3 years old. We were. It's all kind of meshy as far as my memory bank. That's kind of what happens with severe trauma. But at like one point, he kidnapped us from my aunt's house and took us across state lines, and we ended up in foster care through a process of him accusing my mom of being on drugs, and she had to wait until she could get like stable housing too, and there was some mess there too.
Dang. And your dad was in prison for a lot of your upbringing.
Yeah.
What age was you living with him versus you living with your mom and then your stepdad?
I only lived with my dad until I was 2. I stayed with him for little bits at a time along the path, like
Maybe fighting
when he
custody
would get
and
out of
stuff,
prison,
or-
we would go spend a couple weeks with him.
I see.
But he would always do something to where we, like for instance, when I was 11, we went and spent the summer with him, but he threw a party that my sister got roofied at.
Oh my gosh.
And she was 13 and almost died. So my mom came and picked us up, and we came back, and I didn't see him again until I was 18.
And you were 13 or 14 at that time, or
I was 11. My
you
sister
were 11?
was 13,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh! Wow. And he's just throwing parties like that. That is.
I got introduced to hard drug usage at that age because of him.
Okay.
I didn't start using meth at that point, but I knew about it. I knew about heroin. I was learning all of those things from that summer experience. I got handcuffed for the first time from being drunk and running from the police.
Oh my gosh. Wait, this is like 12, 11 years
11
old?
years old, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
We went and spent the summer with my dad.
Dang.
My sister also ran wild, tried hard drugs. My dad was like encouraging that.
Describe that conversation. How does that go down when your dad, a full-grown adult, is used to these drugs, but then how does he have the conversation with you? What does that
I don't
sound
remember how we got into it.
Okay.
But I know I was smoking weed and drinking, and that's when I started abusing my Ritalin, because he would ask me for my own Ritalin to snort, and then I would start abusing my Ritalin because of that.
And how did you get access? Was you stealing it from your dad, or was he helping you find people to get it from?
He would just freely give it to us. Yeah, he was
he'd just give it to you, no
completely
problem.
encouraging it. I learned
Wow.
about the details of sexual relations from that visit. Like, he explained what sex was, and in detail, like very vivid detail.
Wow.
Yep.
That is crazy. I can't imagine. So your image of your father must be just crazy. Like I wouldn't imagine it's a father type of image at all, right? It's more of like, how would you describe your view of him now?
I would say, to a degree, I do still view him as a father, and that's because I've done a lot of psychological understanding work. and I understand our psyches. So on an like a blood relation, you feel a bond with your parent. Whether you can still be angry, but that bond's going to always be there. So like when they die, it's still really tough.
Right.
And you still grieve. I would say I probably would grieve. I mean, because of the things that I had to process when he died, it was so confusing and hard to understand. But I ended up reading a lot of science, so I get it now.
Dang, wow. So how did you, at 11 years old, getting involved in drugs, how did it not basically take your life? How
it did. I became a heavy addict after that. And then later in life, we moved to Idaho when I was 8, and we moved because my parents' house got raided, and we wanted to get a fresh start.
Wow.
My stepdad and my mom.
Did you ever, throughout this process, was you ever, like, taken into Child Protective Services or anything like that, or?
Once. I definitely tried a lot through my life. Like, I would always I would always tell the school on my parents.
Okay, yeah.
And then we'd get, like, CPS visits, but in comparison to some other lives, it wasn't terrible. It was, like, my mom was trying. She got us help, especially after I came back from my dad's. I blocked that out, so I didn't really remember my sister getting roofied until after my dad died. Wow. And then I remembered it.
Dang.
Yeah.
How's your relationship with that sister of yours? Do you guys still get along? Do you guys talk about this stuff?
We've gone through phases. She also lived a really tougher experience than I did.
It was even worse for her because she was older, you think? Or?
She's also, because of our experiences, we put ourselves in a lot of risky situations. And I would say that she and I were both, like, looking for death without it being by our own hand.
Wow.
Is the best way I can explain it. I see differently now. But that's the perspective that I could give it.
Dang, okay. So you're going through that wild, crazy childhood. What does it look like as you're finally getting older? I mean, I guess even, like, what age did your dad end up dying?
He didn't actually die until 2021.
Okay, so that's fairly recent. Okay.
Yeah, I lived a path to find death until 2020.
Okay.
Is basically and I say that because I lived in to kind of just take it back to the childhood a little bit. My preteen years and my teenage years were about partying, but I was still somewhat responsible in that context. Like, I still had a job. I had a job from like 14 on.
Okay, so you started really young. It was part-time,
but my job was literally until I stopped using hard drugs when I was 21 maybe. It's kind of still kind of blurry, but nope, 2022. Or 2012, I'm sorry. Woo! In 2012, I quit using meth and oxycodone, and because that was another drug, or Oxycontin, that was another drug of my choice, and pain pills somewhere in there, 2013, 2014-ish.
Okay, yeah. And you're starting work as young as 14 years old, and I'm assuming you're using a lot of the money you're making from work to get these drugs.
Drugs and gas. My mom paid all of my bills for me.
Are you living with your mom at the time then?
Yes. Okay. I also had a child at 16.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There's more. I have my story won't fit into your half an hour.
Yeah, it's fine. What we could totally do is just, we won't be able to dive super deep into each part of it, but we'll just kind of go through different steps, get as much of the general story as we can. And then, if you're down in the future, we could always do more in-depth podcast.
So, the biggest turning point for me was when I turned 18, right before my 18th birthday. Okay. When my friends committed suicide. Then, right after my 18th birthday, it was so in February of 2008, my friend Captain killed himself. Then my birthday was in March. In April, my nephew and my grandpa died. my grandpa died from old age. My nephew died from SIDS. Then in May, my other best friend, like I spent years every day with him for years. Like from the moment I met him until he committed suicide, I was with him. Pretty consistently. Like we spent some time apart, but it was minimal. We were very codependent on each other as a friend group. And he shot himself in the head after I left his house.
Whoa.
And I was investigated for murder for his death.
They were accusing you of
his
it.
mom still doesn't feel that it was suicide.
Wow.
But at the time it was there was a lot of like weird things that happened. And I was the last person to text him, and it was a lot. They ended up taking my phone for like a week and a half or 2 weeks or something like that.
Was there probably a whole investigation, everything that went on? Okay.
Yeah. And then, because we were all partying and we were only 18, and I ended up leaving the party and like angrily driving off. And that was all that his mom knew, was that I had driven off angrily in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But, and then after that, I didn't feel that there was a will to live for a long time.
And you're 18 at this time, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then my friends were also like confused whether I was involved or not, and whether it was suicide or whether it was murder. Mm-hmm. So I just really felt isolated. And
right. I'd imagine, because you're still discovering who you are, just becoming an adult. You've had multiple deaths happen very close to you, and now someone extremely close to you ends up taking their life, and people want to accuse you for that. Like, that sounds like the world crumbling around you. That would be really hard.
It had already crumbled before
right?
that. I started attempting suicide at 12.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I spent time in a mental hospital starting at 12, but in retrospect, it was because of the memory of my sister getting roofied and me blocking it out, and me not being able to process or handle any of that. So I just lost my shit.
Crazy, because you're so young. You're still figuring out what life is even, what you're in this world for. Yeah. And seeing that kind of crazy stuff, I would imagine lots of people would want to be like, wait, this doesn't seem right. This seems like I'm in the wrong place. And like, you'd want to take it back, Like, you can't
I was in fight or flight 24/7 from birth, and I didn't really recognize that. But to add, like, my mom had a really rough childhood, so she was in fight or flight, and she didn't really know. And, like, we've healed so much.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's got to be somewhat multi-generational, because your own parents' trauma is getting dumped onto you, right?
Yeah.
So that goes on throughout each generation. That is crazy.
It's science, but yeah, it's beautiful once you get the perspective of it.
I mean, I would imagine you'd have a newfound appreciation for life to be able to go through all that and still make it through,
Oh, that's not even my hardest times.
Right. Okay. So what happens next? You have to fight being accused of even murder after multiple family members die. You probably lost a lot of friends throughout that, right?
Yeah, and it was like mutual too. Like, they were living their own lives, and I was choosing drugs and risky behavior, and being a drug runner, and doing terrible things. And then I started smoking OxyContin, and my friends were like, "Yep, on here."
Dang. Okay. And so that's a big change too then, right? Because that's just a lot harder drug than what you were used to, kind of.
Yeah, and at the point I started snorting pain pills with one of the friends that killed himself at I think we were 14. Whoa. And his parent was giving it to us. My parents. I got them from my loved ones, but I would make excuses, like, I have a migraine, I need a pain pill, so
I would imagine if someone's growing up with that being so normalized, does it even seem like it should be illegal? If it's something that you were able to live your whole life with, and your parents don't see it as a bad thing. I just try to comprehend it in my head. If my parents never told me it was bad, I'd have a hard time thinking it was bad at all, right? Or is that not the case?
Oh no, I definitely, I angrily knew it was bad, and I angrily knew that I was not doing the right thing. Okay. But in perspective, there was a part of me, and I was diagnosed with bipolar, or not. I was diagnosed with bipolar when I was 12. I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder later.
Okay.
But you really do have that split, is like where you hate yourself because of the actions that you're doing, because you know your potential is better, but you don't feel any motivation or drive to be that other side of you. You want,
okay.
when you're angry and you're mad, you have an impulse to be this other side of you for protection, but you still see in your mind's eye that soft side of you, and you still view yourself somewhat to that degree.
Interesting. So you still can know that you don't want that to be a part of your life, but like the angry side of you that wants to hurt you is the one having you do it.
Yeah, and in the impulsivity of it, you feel the pull, like this is what you need to do, and you're not angry about it in the moment, but as the rubber band hits back, you're like, fuck you.
Right, okay, because of all the repercussions that can come from it and everything.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. And, okay, so then how long does that kind of go on for? Say?
So I had transitioned through from like 18 to maybe, I think I was 19 or something when I started smoking Oxycontin, to 2021 I switched full blown to meth.
Okay.
With the occasional pain pill wrapped up in there, but I was in 2011 I had gotten into a severely like torturously abusive relationship. At the very beginning of it, he told me I was a junkie and I needed to get sober, and he was a meth addict, so I ended up transitioning to meth through that. But he was very abusive, so everything I was a terrible existence.
Did he like portray it to you that like he was going to try to help you with your addiction, and then he didn't? He ended up manipulating you in that way? Or was it more of like he didn't know how to help, but you were also struggling, so you guys just were struggling together?
In perspective, I think he has schizophrenia, and I experienced both sides of him.
Okay.
I lived with him for 9 years, with about 4 of that being with him in prison, but us conversing every day.
Okay.
And there was half of him that worshipped the ground that I walked on. The other half of him hated my existence and wanted me to die.
What the?
And he was going to be okay with it if it was at his hand.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So he kind of had this split personality, and you were with him for 9 years?
I also had it too.
Okay.
Because of where I was at. Like.
So somehow the personalities kind of meshed or something then?
Yeah, so we had a very deep bond, and I understood him to it.
So did that make it really hard for you to heal yourself, because maybe he wasn't healing at the same rate as you, so it'd be hard to change?
He wasn't trying to heal in my perspective, and I was trying to force it.
Oh, I see. So as you're healing yourself, you're also trying to force him to heal.
And he was also doing the same thing to me.
But the opposite, you mean?
Yes. Okay, we ended up, actually, so to add, my other best friend killed himself in 2012, and then my son's dad killed himself in 2015. Not the abusive one, another one. I had a baby when I was 16. I had another one in 2012, right after my friend killed himself. Then I got sober from meth and heroin and all hard drugs, except for like light pain pills every once in a while. And then I ended up transitioning to tramadol, which was supposed to be not a narcotic, but it was definitely still the same drug in context. And then I ended up going on antipsychotics and anxiety medication, and then I started using all those things, and then now I'm
Wow. And okay, we kind of barely touched that you had a kid at 16, you had a second kid. Is it just 2? How many kids do you have?
I also consider I have a stepdaughter from my ex that so my older son is 18. He is on his own, doing decently well. He's definitely had his little life he had to live. And then I have a 12-year-old son with the abusive partner that I had.
Okay.
The abusive partner broke my face in 2020. in front of my children. Well, they weren't.
Wow.
They were in the other room, but they heard the fight that it was in.
Right. So do you have custody? Is there a battle that's happening there? Or?
No, he's in prison. He actually
Okay.
committed a third domestic violence in the presence of a child. Well,
Dang.
I guess, yeah. Anyhow, I do forgive him, though, and I am praying for his healing because I know what it's like to feel that way.
What makes you such a forgiving person? I know a lot of people that if they had an abusive partner like that, it would be really hard to forgive them. What do you think makes it?
The understanding of two different, maybe like four different factors actually, because there's a couple different spirituality modalities that talk about forgiveness, but there's also psychology and the psychology of it releasing what we store in our own bodies, because the somatics of our bodies and how our bodies work is we store those things in our bodies. So with my understanding of psychology and how our bodies work in this psychological and emotional realm is why I choose forgiveness over anything.
Nice. And is that something you gained from, because you talk a lot about psychology, did you go to school for psychology? Did you just research it on your own? Or where did you...
Mix of both.
Okay.
I ended up dropping out after my son's dad killed himself, though, of college, and I just decided to start learning on my own. Then I've done, since then, like peer support specialist training. I've done breath work, exercises, and lots of research.
Okay.
I like to understand people. I originally started that process to understand myself. Through the traumatic experiences that I've experienced, I ended up learning a lot about suicide intervention, and I'm trained in suicide intervention. I'm in the process of starting a nonprofit too, and I already do a lot of that work for crisis intervention already.
Okay. Wow, that's
as a
cool.
hobby, or not necessarily hobby. I do it in my free time though.
Okay, that is really cool. Wow, I like that. I think that America could benefit from having more resources for sure to share knowledge on that kind of stuff. Because therapy is a big one, but some people are a little nervous about going to therapy. But even if it's just like, I know of a lot of people that use that crisis helpline, just to call and have somebody to talk to.
Yeah, I
stuff like that.
I share that weekly, if not more. But yeah, and like I'm also a manager, so I've used that crisis intervention with my own managerial experiences. It's come in handy. You'd be surprised how many people are suicidal on a day-to-day basis.
Right. Yeah. It's shocking. Just looking up the stats of like how many people have committed suicide in the past year, and it's staggering. It is crazy.
Yep. And there's not a lot of resources for it either that are in person, that are not expensive.
Right. Oh yeah.
Because you can do. I mean, there's these breathwork trainings that are $3,500, $5,000 that are amazing, but who can afford that?
Right.
So I teach it for free, and that's my goal, is to provide all of my services for free.
Okay. I like that. That's really cool. From your life experience, do you feel like America has a skewed, I don't know the proper phrasing, but like, disproportionate of wealth and like unfairness to, I guess, like the societal norms of like middle class, upper class, and all of that? Or what do you feel in your personal opinion?
Oh, the government is a funny subject.
Right. It's definitely intense, and there's so much money just because America's got a lot of money just distributed throughout everywhere, that it is really hard to like pinpoint it. And I'm just curious, just because of from your willingness to like do so much charity work, you described wanting to start a nonprofit. I feel like that gives the vibe of you're a very giving person. You want to share, and like basically, if you have the ability, you want to be able to share that with others. And so I'm just curious if that would also apply to your kind of view of America as a whole.
I do have a socialism view for sure.
Okay.
I think that we should definitely be helping our fellow community, especially try to understand like the person that's screaming in the checkout line is more than likely somewhat suicidal, if you understand the context of what suicidal ideations do to our bodies, and what they do to our, like, if we're lashing out, it means something.
Right.
And we don't really see that as a society. However, there are a lot of people that are starting to understand that. So I am also, trying to spread that understanding. It's like, when I was at my most suicidal times was when I was freaking out on the little teenager at the restaurant.
Yeah, because it can come out at any time, right? If you let it like bottle up, and then depending on what happens, it's not always the thing right in front of you that's the reason for the reaction, but it can be anything from the past,
From my experience as a manager, as a person, from suicidal intervention, from the experiences that I've had, most of the time it has absolutely nothing to do with that moment.
Right.
The moment is the last straw. And that's our psychological breakdown. It's like, it's just too heavy in that moment. The door that got shut in that moment is just the last straw.
Dang. Yeah.
And I am very well adept in that understanding. It's like it, and I share that with as many people as possible because I've lived that life. I've been the suicidal one where everybody was like angry at, and I was just like, I'm just trying to die, and you don't understand. But I couldn't say that because I was turned off. I was isolated. I was.
And it's hard to know how people are going to take it. A lot of people, they don't know basically how to take that information, and so you got to be careful about how you portray it to other people as well.
However, you have to forgive the people that don't understand that too, because you don't know
true.
if you don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. Information's a valuable key for sure. That's why I like it. I like that you seem very knowledgeable on it. I definitely want to get into a little bit more about some of the things you've discovered. But I also want to kind of get an image as to what got you to where you are today, especially career-wise, because you were working as young as 14. What types of different jobs and like industries have you worked in?
Cool. I've worked in anything from Silverwood theme park.
Worked at Silverwood. Okay, that's a fun
That was
place.
my first job, actually.
Oh, wow.
And then I did housekeeping at a little resort in Priest Lake from 15 to like off and on. It was a seasonal job. And then I've for like 8 years or so. And then I've done call center work. I've been a customer support for T-Mobile in like all different aspects. I've been a salesperson. I've done debt collection. I've done bars. I've worked at landscaping. I've done painting. I've done. I'm a housekeeping manager now. For a ski resort. But
that's cool.
Yeah, it's a great job, and I can snowboard whenever I want. Yeah,
that sounds awesome. So what are some of your favorite industries you've worked in, and then maybe some of your least favorite that you've worked in?
Least favorite is restaurant.
Okay, yeah. Fast food can be hard.
It's just
I hear
definitely
stuff about that all the time.
Yeah, I'm actually a part-time Domino's driver too right now, and it's just also it's so small, and energy is.
Is it the people you work with, or usually the customers that make it a hard time?
I think it's a fluctuation of both, and just inflation and societal standards and norms and things, and all of the above.
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay. And then would you say the ski resort's your favorite to work at?
So far, I mean, my passion is mental health.
Okay.
I'm in the process of learning what I need to be a nonprofit. That's still kind of a little bit out of my mental grasp, but I'm getting there. But I already do the work, so it's just about like getting the analytics of it down and what I want it to look like. But I already have that concept too.
Nice.
Just don't have like the next step of it is a little bit above where I'm at right now.
Okay, nice. and you researched a lot on your own. Have you ever had like a therapist or maybe someone advisor and stuff? Okay.
I've had many mentors. My most favorite, she actually started with me when I was 12, and she worked through EMDR with me and ART with me and many other different modalities along the path. She went through my drug addiction with me. She's a beautiful, amazing human. She actually had a mental health clinic in Coeur d'Alene for a while.
Oh, cool.
And now she does a private practice. And I moved to Sandpoint, so now I have 2 therapists. I have a therapist that specializes in breath work, and then I have a therapist that specializes in talk therapy. So.
Okay. Yeah. Sweet. Wow. Okay, so you've got lots of experience. So what are some of the things you would say that you are more informed on than the average person, or some skill sets that you have, just different thing like that, would you say?
I am well equipped with co-regulation in crisis moments. I am equipped with crisis intervention in suicidal ideations. I'm equipped with knowledge in psychology in general and the somatics of our body and yoga. I'm also very equipped with that knowledge and what it does for our mental health as well. All of those factors, like the more that we work on our bodies, the more that we can feel better about ourselves. Mm-hmm. Even if it's just like getting up and working out. And I have like severe internal damage, so I've had a lot of like struggles because of the abuse that I experienced and the level of damage that was done to my body. I have to like go really slow. So there was also a whole transition of like having to rebuild your body after it's hurt and experiencing that. And then I have a son with autism and PTSD and
Okay. How much of our mental health is correlated with our physical health, would you say?
90% of it.
Okay, so it's a big part of it. So daily exercise obviously is a huge help, both physically and mentally, right?
Eating healthy. So there's pillars of health.
Okay.
Right. So there's financial, food. Oh, now I'm going to draw a blank on it because we're talking about it. But financial, our food intake, our physical health, and our spiritual health.
Okay.
I think I might be there, and there's more of them too. Like you can go more in depth. I think the most I've ever seen is like 9 of them, but it's like different pillars of your life that you need balance in order for you to feel okay. And a really good also additive that I want to add is affirmations are definitely a real thing, and they do work amazingly. So does meditation and breath work. Meditation, like I also create my own meditations and teach them to people too. So.
Oh, nice. That's really cool.
Yep.
I like that. I've been told many times that the brain is a powerful thing, and so if you like reaffirm something in it, then it's more likely for you to accomplish it, and vice versa. If you constantly tell yourself you can't do something, it's going to make it much harder to accomplish it. And so
yes, and then we give ourselves doubt, and we don't think that that it works that easily, but it really is that simple once you get to the dynamic of how our body works. And I am a testimony to that. So
nice. That's really cool. How much of your like knowledge and like understanding of life has come from your parents kind of like giving you information and teaching you how life works versus you being a parent and having your own kids, would you say?
I would say everything happens for a reason, and all of it is kind of a conglomeration of everything that everybody experiences. Like we learn from everything, even the darkness. Every single thing that we go through is something to learn from, even the darkest moments. And if we have that perspective and we don't look at it as like these terrible things are happening to me, we choose to be grateful for what we have experienced, and we come through with forgiveness and love towards ourselves. And it has nothing to do with that other person. Like I forgive myself for not walking away sooner. And I had to go through those forgivings of myself in order to be where I'm at now and be able to guide other people through that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I personally definitely like have a little bit of a struggle with the fact that the hard things I go through in my life, they make me a better person, and I like to think that I needed those hard things, and maybe they were like maybe in my destiny or whatever you might want to call it as a part of life. But then I'm also torn with the fact that it's like, do I wish those things never happened to me though? Because then, yeah, I wouldn't be as knowledgeable as a person, wouldn't quite be who I am today. But there's definitely things in my life that it would be nice if that never happened, or I didn't lose money here, or have these situations that really I feel like put me behind in life, right?
Right.
And so how do you balance that? The difficulty of life's gonna be hard. You can learn from it, but it's also gonna be so hard sometimes that you're gonna, at least to some degree, wish that it didn't happen, And so I don't know, it can be a little bit.
The understanding that I came from that is, how loving would I be if I didn't go through that? If I didn't experience that, and if I wished that away, am I accepting where I'm at now? And the reason I say that is because I wished that my best friend didn't kill himself.
Mm-hmm.
The second one, he was like, I wish they all didn't, but that one was the one that like tore my soul out, because I was in love with him to a degree. I didn't really understand at the same time, but for years after that, I would always say I would have married him if he would have stayed alive. And looking back on it, in order to have accepted his death and accepted the situation and to accept who I am and accept where I am, I had to accept that as something different.
Okay. Dang. And do you feel like the acceptance has to get to a point where you, I guess like you to some degree you become, what would you call it, like okay with what has happened, and so there's no longer this type of like, I guess, remorse towards
Turmoil.
it?
I would say no more turmoil. Yeah. So like now, so I do have PTSD, and it does come up every once in a while where I go into fight or flight, and I might get a little aggressive, or I'll just have to leave. Generally, if I start feeling aggressive, I'll just leave the situation, rather than, because what I have experienced and who I have been born from, I am very aggressive and domineering and directive when I get very angry, and it can explode very quickly. So my trust in myself is to leave the situation before anybody gets hurt from me.
Yeah, I like that though, because it's so true. You got to understand yourself to know how to best address situations you find yourself into.
Yeah.
Because everybody's different, for sure.
And I have to accept where I am and who I am to every degree in order to feel okay with who I am.
There you go. Nice. I like that. Do you feel like there's kind of a portion of nature of who we are born as, and our DNA of what makes us who we are, and then nurture, what we become, what we're raised to be. What would you say would be your best guess as to how much is one versus the other?
I think it's more nurture.
Okay.
And why I say that is because the traumatic experiences that I have compared to somebody that was not nurtured, like for instance, me versus my sister. My mom and my sister had a very like physical, aggressive, not connected overall, but had a little bit of a bond.
Okay.
So most of the time they were like aggressive towards each other, and they didn't talk to each other, and one of them was 3 states away, and
oh wow. Okay.
Where my mom nurtured me more and worked more to try to understand where I was because of where she was at when she had me compared to when she had my sister.
Are you the youngest child?
No, I have a younger brother who's 6 years younger than me, and my parents, my mom and my stepdad, have like adopted children massively along the path as well. Like they have a 3-year-old right now.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Dang. And would you also agree that like I mean, you don't have to agree, but like, do you think it's true that the placement in your family does have a big effect on the type of person that you become? Because each child is like they always say, the first child's the test child.
Yes,
You know?
and society does back that too, but psychology does too, and so does child development. If you read some science on child development, it's like, especially the younger that our parents are, when they have their firstborn, they're going to be more into caring for themselves. And then if they have them later in life, then they're going to be more into being the parental nurturing figure. In most cases, and that's not all cases, but like definitely in a lot of cases.
Okay. Nice.
And also that could be different with, it also depends, there's so many different factors because we never know where our parents are at psychologically. So like, somebody could die and my parent could be completely disconnected from me when I feel like, maybe not where I'm going with that.
Okay. But to put it just a number to it, it does sound like you're from your life experience, you would put roughly like 25% of who you are is kind of in your DNA, what you're born as. 75% is your environment, what surrounds you, can kind of like mold you into.
Right, because perspective is everything. So if you hear a perspective consistently, your brain is going to automatically think that is perspective. But when you get into a different culture, you get into a different environment, you start seeing those cultural patterns from the community that you were in. And you can see it in different cultures too, or just even different towns. Like go from Sandpoint to Priest River, 2 different cultures, 2 different types of people, 2 different environments, and then you mesh those.
The people,
so right?
Yeah, it makes me think of, I love the test that they took like 2 twins, and one was adopted to another family versus the other, and to just see, even though their DNA was technically the same, they became dramatically different people. Still some similarities. That's why I do think, some degree of it is the DNA.
Like my son and his dad, both of their little pinky fingers like lift up. That's where like nature comes into.
Yeah, for sure. I like that. That's cool. Dang. Are you close with your kids? Are they
yes.
Kind of like the relationship.
Yeah. Me and my younger son struggle the most.
The oldest one then?
Me and my oldest are, I love that boy. Okay. He has, he's just been a strong foundation my whole life. And which is hard because he's my son, but also he just gave me my own strength that, like, just by having him.
Right.
When I found out I was pregnant, I decided to graduate early because I knew I didn't want to be a parent without a high school diploma. Okay. So I graduated a year and a half early because I found out I was pregnant going into my junior year. So I graduated by the end of my junior year.
Okay. Dang.
Yeah.
Wow. So that definitely changed the course of your life. But how did it go raising someone so young? And I'm assuming your mom probably helped out, and like how did that get balanced?
I was kind of into drugs too. So my mom, I called myself a part-time alcoholic at that time. Ooh, okay. But I was still doing pain pills every day. My mom helped me massively. There was points where I gave my mom my kid because I knew he wasn't safe with me.
That's something we should talk more about, that because I feel like so many people in today's society just they kind of have a narrow mindset to where they think like, oh, just because somebody is struggling or not in the best financial situation, they shouldn't be allowed to raise their kid or whatever. Whereas I personally like to believe that anyone who has a kid is going to find a way to make sure the kid is safe, even if it's to like their own detriment sometimes, just like that, knowing it, you might want to keep the kid with you at all times, but knowing that they're safer somewhere else, as a loving parent, you'd be willing to let them be in a safer environment,
That's what I would do.
Yeah, that's so important.
And then he had stability there for the most part. there was definitely, it was still, I mean, my dad was a biker and totes guns, so, and drunk, and I love him.
Okay. Well, interesting. Wow.
Yeah. Like,
and that's the stepdad?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like we grew up, I mean, I knew how to shoot a gun by 12. I knew how to drive by 12.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, he would, he needed somebody to drive safely, so.
Oh, I see. Okay. So did you grow up in like a small town? That seems like a little small town vibe.
Spirit Lake, Priest River,
okay.
Old Town, like a lot of little small towns.
Nice. That's cool.
Blanchard. I moved a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Moved in Ratcham a little bit.
Does one spot feel more like home than the other, or is it all just kind of mixed in?
Their house now, it's been their house since I was 14.
Okay. Nice.
And it is like a rundown, you know, where they've been working on demolishing it for a while.
Like for renovations, or just because it's so old?
It's not. It's like condemnable almost.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not quite there, but it's like, it's close.
Okay, nice.
So they're working, and my mom's and dad are in their 60s, and they have a 3-year-old, so they're working, and not a lot of kids at home, and it's a 4-bedroom trailer that they like mended together into a big. It was trailer. A 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom modular home, and they. Or no, a 3-bedroom modular home. 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. And then they knocked out the back wall and put a shed on and made a house. Okay. Or made their room out of it.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
and then
wild.
My dad, to add, my dad has also had, when I was 16, he had a triple bypass on his heart and has had 7 heart surgeries and 2 brain surgeries since then, and just recently had a total of 5 heart attacks from October to just now, but it was like 2 in October, and then he broke his back in 3 places with a 4-wheeler falling on him.
What?
And he kicked it off with 1 foot, like a 1,000-pound 4-wheeler, and this dude kicked it off of him.
Yeah, this guy sounds like he's been through a lot.
Yes, and then he had 3 heart attacks the next week and spent a week in the hospital.
Oh, and he's 60?
He's 60. He was born in 64, so he's 61.
Oh, wow.
My dad has fallen off roofs and broken both of his arms at once. Like, he's rolled more vehicles than I can count. I learned how to... My dad, when I was 15, when we were driving, would... grab the wheel and jerk on it in a wind or a snowstorm to teach me how to get out of the ditch.
Oh, so he'd purposely get you in a ditch
to teach us to get out of it, and he would do it to all of us.
Okay.
And I would be so mad at him, but I'm grateful for it now because I'm not afraid of going in the ditch at all. But like,
you know what to do now.
Did you have to do it that way?
Right. It's more of that aggressive parenting teaching style.
Yes. But I learned how to feel big and heard when I need to be because of who he is. And I learned to feel powerful, and I learned to trust myself. I didn't learn it until after my real dad died, ironically. But, like, just so much made sense after. Death does that to us.
Right. I feel like it forces you to look at life from new perspectives.
Yes.
And then you learn new stuff from that.
Every time. Once you get through the denial and the grief part of it.
Right. Because that's the hard part. I feel like the natural side of your brain just wants to get aggressive and wants to get upset. Yeah. It's so much easier to get mad and upset than it is to just be happy all the time.
Yeah,
you know?
And I've been there. And like, I still have anger. And I still have doubt. And I still have those feelings. They're human feelings. You have to accept them too.
Right.
When you accept them, though, they look a lot different.
That's weird. Life is strange. I feel like we're all just trying to figure it out. What's your relationship now currently with your parents and your children and your whole family dynamic? How does that all look?
I feel pretty confident with my family dynamic now. Like, it doesn't feel toxic to me. when I had really bad PTSD, it definitely felt really intense. Like, after I left my ex, after he got arrested for breaking my face, I had my nose broken twice, and then an orbital skull fracture with muscular blowout. I had 5 broken ribs, I think. I can't remember exact on the number of ribs, but like...
How many years is he in jail for all that?
He was in for 3 years. He got out. He got another person pregnant, and then I don't think he was as extreme to her as he was to me. Like, mine was like torturous. Like,
right.
Torturous.
Sounds crazy.
I would never even go into any of those details on any kind of camera.
Did you have to go to court and like be the one to testify against him and everything?
I did, yes.
Okay.
However, at the time, I was too afraid of what he thought of me to share any of the truth, aside from like, yes, he broke my face.
Okay.
Wow. So I've never really like...
Was you able to share it in I don't know how it could be somewhat anonymous, but were they able to somewhat protect you from him like finding out that you were the one or something, or does that not really exist?
No, I was I'm very open and honest, and
Okay.
I gave them what they needed to put him in prison. What I asked for was mental health services, though,
Okay.
and they chose prison instead. I don't agree with the prison system in the way that it is, and I don't think it's healthy
Let's
and
go
healing
into
for anyone.
that because that is fascinating. A lot of people, if anyone got punched in the face by someone, they would generally want them to go to prison for as long as they could get them in there for.
Yeah.
But
I've
you
been
have
that
a
person,
different idea of it all. It's like, where does that come from, and how did you get over your face being broken in? Like, that's intense. That is wild.
It was a ride, but so I used to be the person that would go start fights with random people because they looked at me. I would go tell people to go kill themselves. I would go tell people to go die in a fucking fire. Like, I hated existence.
Dang.
And I hated people, and I hated everyone, and I wanted everything to die and burn, and I wanted the world to end, in my perspective. I also loved it on the other side of me because I was a split personality person.
Interesting. So did it change day by day, or was it just kind of like random?
It was...
Your emotions or something?
There was always like triggers to it, but when I was in my anger mode, when I was mad at whoever I was mad at, I didn't care who or what I hurt. I mean, I never like tortured anyone, and I never broke anybody's face, but I understand like the depth of that pain, and I understand like I've read a lot of books on. I mean, I was obsessed with serial killing when I was younger too. So like I thought I was going to become a serial killer.
Oh, that
at one
you
point.
become.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And I was
that's
like
scary.
obsessed
That's
with like my senior project in high school was on a serial killer.
Oh wow! Did people talk to you about that?
They thought I was
become a concern?
joking at the time, but like
Okay.
and it's in context I sounded like I was joking, but like in my painful moments in my bathroom while I was crying, it didn't feel like a joke.
Right, and I guess most people wouldn't know how to take it, so they would just take it as a joke.
Yeah,
Huh?
and I made it sound like a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Also, because
Yeah.
you gotta be funny about how you feel.
Right. That's one thing I noticed. People that go through the most trauma are have the most dark humor. I feel like it seems.
I mean, yeah.
It's fascinating, huh? Because I think, what are your thoughts? Does that come from because they've gone to such dark places and such hard times, or is that just like a coping mechanism, or what would you say causes that?
I think it's a coping mechanism and also a way to like release how you feel, because like when I make a joke about what I've been through, it makes me feel better.
Okay, rather than just have to face it at like face value, then, right?
Yeah, or
make
like
a joke about
so
it.
if somebody says, for instance, since I got my face broken, computers are hard for me. It just doesn't process. So I used to be really good and fast and quick and efficient at computers, and now I'm not. So if somebody were to say something about me taking a long time, I might make a joke about my face getting broken and my head being bashed in. I don't know.
I see.
But like, so that, I guess that's a coping mechanism.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I guess when you go through something like that, I don't know how else.
But it's like
to
when somebody
process it,
is making fun of you or something where it's like intended to make you feel bad or whatever, then I'm going to make a joke about it because you can't hurt my feelings.
Right. Okay.
I've been through too much to
I see. Yeah.
hurt my feelings, dude.
Dang. That is wild. It's a lot. Holy smokes.
Yeah, that's still not even like, oh man. I have...
Okay. Dang. Okay, but so they come to you. Well, I guess so. You got your face smashed in, and then what was the next Because did you go to the police? Did you? What's that?
Oh, that is kind of a story in itself. So like this man broke my bones for a while before.
So it was a continuous thing.
Yeah, and like in perspective, like I did things to him too that made me feel like I deserved the treatment, which is why I never left.
Wow.
Like at one point I slept with his best friend, like, and there was things that I did too, and then I'd hate myself for it, and then I'd be like, yeah, I deserve you to treat me this way.
Wow.
And like, and I'd be begging for love.
Would he reaffirm it? Did he oftentimes like talk you down to make you feel like less valued, so that?
Oh yeah, and then but then he'd talk me back up too. Like I remember, I think when I was pregnant with my younger son, I hung myself because of the way that he was talking to me. I hung myself, and he cut me down and then brought me back up.
Interesting. Wow. So he would sometimes be like the person motivating and encouraging.
Antagonistic completely, and then I would snap, and then he'd be like, "Oh, I got you."
That is so interesting.
And I did the same thing to him.
So just a lot of back and forth then?
Yeah, I was just never like as physical. Like I couldn't. He was 6'4" and I'm 5'3", you know?
Dang, yeah. So was it more of like you were so numb and used to the way that he treated you that it didn't affect you as much, or?
I was numb to the pain for sure.
Okay, so
for sure. Like he could literally like punch me in the face, and 15 minutes later we'd be out having fun with his family. Fine.
Wow. See, that is crazy to me.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people, not only would that take forever to get over, but it would almost like you'd never be able to be in a happy, good setting with them after something like that.
Yeah, unless you understand psychology.
And I would assume it would come from constant repeating, right? Happening so much that becomes the norm, right?
Yeah. Well, and my mom was a little bit abusive in my younger days, and she saw it as just punishment at that point, you know? But like, and she thought she was doing the right thing. So like, again, I forgive her because her perspective was that she was doing the right thing.
But why did she think she was doing the right thing? Was that just she truly convinced herself that was the way to raise kids?
Her childhood was much worse than mine was by far. So the level of punishment she gave me was minuscule compared to what she got.
What in the world did she get then? That sounds crazy.
My mom's mom died in a car accident from being drunk with my mom in the car when she was 11, and my mom watched her mom die. She was given to whoever, whenever after that. Her dad died in a game of Russian roulette when she was 17. Through that experience, her mom was allowing her little sister to be sold for sex before. Like there was so much.
Was she probably in the age of like the Great Depression in that type of time period? Do you know?
I would probably say a little bit after that. My grandma just passed away that she ended up going to later. Who's not my real grandma, but definitely my grandma.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, dude, my life has been... people are blown away when I share it.
Yeah, it sounds crazy. So when you say your mom's was 10 times worse than yours, like, to me, it's hard to comprehend, you know?
Yeah.
It's hard to fully wrap my head around it.
But I've read a lot about serial killers, and shit happens, and you can either choose to go the good way or the opposite way. And I was choosing the opposite way, and then I chose to come back here. Because... actually, people killing themselves. My close friends killing themselves is what started me finding love for people. And then my kid's dad killed himself. Okay, so one of them killed himself was in 2012, my friend, and I got sober from meth. And then shortly after that, I decided to go back to school for psychology. And then I wanted to become a therapist to help people like him. And then I was getting abused. My ex got out of prison in 2015, and from 2015 to 2020 he was out of prison, and it was torturous at that point.
Wow. So it was torturous, but was there a reason why you couldn't leave? Did you just feel trapped? Was there
I didn't see it as torturous in the interim.
So you didn't even feel like you needed to leave then, huh?
To a degree. Like, I mean, we would talk about it, and I'd be like, we need to stop. I can't, you're going to kill me. And he'd be like, yeah, I know. And he'd be like, we'll go to church. And then, or he'd be like, I'm worshiping the devil now. And, like, just, there was conversations. And there was growth. Like, we both got off methamphetamine together, and we ended up, like, instead of having a trap house, we ended up, like, making a home. And, like, there was growth in, like, where he wouldn't sleep with a bunch of other people. He would just threaten to all the time.
Oh, wow.
So, like, there was growth within that craziness.
Right? Oh, man. And so for those 5 years of what I would assume is kind of the more worse abusive time period you're going through, right? And did you have kids living with you? Was you
The whole
raising
time.
kids the whole time? Throughout all that too? Oh, wow.
And he did... starting in 2015. So in 2015, or like somewhere around there, I slept with his best friend, and then I hid it until 2017.
Well, because I would imagine he's in jail for 4 years. He doesn't sound like a great guy. I would imagine it was probably so easy for you to move on to someone else, right?
No, it wasn't. I felt so guilty for it.
Wow.
And like since he's gone to prison in 2020, I've been with one person as a relationship and was like, nope, can't do it, not doing it.
Wait, you're still planning to stay with him?
No.
Okay.
No, I just
Now
can't get in a relationship.
Starting a new relationship is hard.
Yes.
Okay, but you do consider yourself done with your relationship with him?
Yes.
Then? Okay.
Yeah, and my son, I don't let my son talk to him because he committed a new crime.
Right.
Well, I was giving him one chance to benefit the doubt, and then I was like, nope, done.
Yeah, he sounds, from what I can tell, he sounds far too crazy for you to want him to have any type of parental influence at all, I'd imagine. But
yeah, no, we don't anymore. My son, when he got out, I ended up allowing my son to go over there only as my son told me he felt comfortable. Because my son was old enough to talk to me.
Okay.
And so I was like, as long as you feel comfortable, because he wanted to see his dad. I was like, I'll let you see your dad.
And is this visiting him at the prison or something?
No, it was when he got out. He had gotten a house in Rathdrum. And then I started noticing like changes in my son's behavior. So then I would start asking questions, and then this one week his girlfriend called me and was like, Nathan beat me up. Don't let Aries come over this weekend. And she didn't want to call the cops, and then I ended up calling his parole officer because I wasn't gonna put up with that shit. And she ended up too, but she, like, her dad ended up calling the police. She didn't, and she was like trying to not get him charged because she was afraid of the consequences of him leaving. This guy is like very very kind and like loving, and you can feel like so much love. And then he has this other side of him that literally his eyes are a different color. Like,
and who are we talking about right now? Your
Nathan,
son
my
or your
ex.
Okay,
Yeah.
your ex. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. But so when he got out of jail, then he was visiting. Who was it?
My son.
Your son. Oh, I
Yeah.
see. Okay. And so
then,
when he was involved in your son's life, then your son's girlfriend tried to stop it, but didn't want to get people in trouble. It sounds like, or something like that.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Sorry.
It's okay. That's okay. I said it really fast, and it's a really long story, so it's like trying to hit the. So like, my son was going over there probably about once a month.
Okay.
To his dad and his girlfriend's house.
Oh, okay. I
and
see.
She got pregnant right away, and then she had the baby after so long, whatever. And during that time, my son was going over there.
I see. Okay.
And then right after the baby is born, she called me and was like, he beat me up. Don't send. I think she was like 2 months old or something, 3 months old maybe.
Okay, so she was saying, don't have your son come over to see this abusive stuff happening.
And and then I called the parole officer. He went on the run, and then my son, he got caught by the police after he was gone for like 5 days running from the probation.
Wow.
And then he got arrested, and my son tried to stab me with a knife over a remote control and me not letting him have it because he was refusing school. So I wasn't going to let him have TV. So he tried to stab me with a knife.
Your own son?
Yes. And he was only 11. And it was like, he has autism. So we've been working on, he's been abusive his whole life. And also because of what he witnessed from his dad. Mm-hmm. So I've been open and honest with his therapist the whole time. Like, we had therapy come in 26 hours a week when we lived in 2020 for, I think it was like 6 months. We had therapy every day from 3:30 to 7, Monday through Friday, every single day for him. Dang. And me. So we could, because I was also being abusive to him because of what I had experienced. So we like...
How do you not get scared of your own son in that type of situation?
I wasn't scared of the 6'4" person, so I'm not scared.
You were scared of this younger kid,
but I don't want to hit him or hurt him either.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, because of my dad and who he is, he taught me how to choke people out very quickly.
Wow.
But I would always, like, when Nathan was beating me up, I'd be like, I don't want to fight. I'm done fighting at this point, because I had already, after people had killed themselves, chosen not to fight. Mm-hmm. So I was just begging for us not to fight. And
so you don't scare easily at all then, huh?
No.
That's wild. Oh man, I would be terrified in those situations. But
moments like this, where like I have to talk in people, that's where I get more anxiety than a crisis situation. I am the calmest ever in like a holy shit moment. Like, if there's guns being wielded, I'm the calm. But if like I'm driving to meet somebody, I'm having an anxiety attack.
Yeah, that's interesting. Dang.
Thankfully, breath work helps. So every time I start having any kind of anxiety, I'm like, just...
Okay. Dang. Does some of your confidence probably come from you exercising and keeping yourself in physical capability to be able to fight back if needed, or?
Oh, that and what I talk, the way that I talk to myself, and just a lot of the meditations that I do. And
do you keep a gun with you?
No, I'm actually a felon. I don't own a gun.
Okay.
Nor would I.
You wouldn't want to? It wouldn't give you any more sense of security or safety at all?
Nothing.
Okay.
I wouldn't even carry a knife. I know my capability.
Okay.
And I trust my intuition is the biggest thing. It's like, I trust myself to make the right choice in the right moment.
Okay.
No matter what happens, because of what I've experienced. I just have that trust in myself. That whether it be to fight, flight, freeze, whatever it is, I know what I'm going to do is correct.
What about, like, what... degree of like I don't want to necessarily call it paranoia, but like do you do certain things maybe to like make yourself feel extra safe? Like if it's extra locks on the doors or like security or anything
I don't
like
even
that?
lock my doors.
No? Okay, so you're just very comfortable with where you're at and your capabilities, and you don't let that be another stress to add on to anything, I guess?
No, my car's unlocked outside right now. With my window down.
Have
My purse in it.
Have you been robbed though? Have you been?
Yeah. Yeah, and I've
does that
also
not
been the
scare
person
ya?
robbing. My perspective on like if stuff gets stolen is like that person probably needed it more than me at this point. Like, yeah, it might suck and I will have to adjust to it and I might like what the fuck it for a moment.
Right.
But overall the end of it is like obviously they needed it more than I did.
Okay.
I've been a thief in my younger days.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to forgive myself for that. So for me to get mad at somebody else for stealing from me, I would have to get mad at myself for doing it.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay. And do you feel like those years of struggling so much that you needed to steal to survive, was that probably scarier than where you are now? So it makes it
God.
not as big
Yeah,
of a deal?
Like anything is replaceable. My life is not. That's the only thing that matters. And my house doesn't matter. I've restarted 1,000,000 times. I was a drug addict. You know,
Wow.
I've lost anything that was sentimental to me ever. None of it matters in the bigger perspective of my life.
In the grand scheme of everything, right?
Yeah, what matters is how I show up.
Right. Wow. Dang. That is wild. You got a good head on your shoulders, though.
Thank you. My therapist tells me that too.
Right? Yeah, I feel like you'd have to. You can't go through that much life experience. Like, you've lived basically multiple lifetimes to where you're at
that's
right
how
now.
I feel.
You have a lot of knowledge throughout all of those experiences. A lot to learn from both failures and success. Where would you say now is your goal? Because we talked about what you've gone through, what's gotten you to where you are now, and you sound like you're doing really well off in comparison of what all that you've been through.
Yes.
So where's the image now? What are some of your goals? What are
So
you?
my goal by 2030, this is my most I want to open kind of like you know how churches have like clothing closets where you can go get like gas vouchers and things like that.
Yeah,
if you're
like
struggling.
food pantries and stuff like that.
Kind of like that.
Yeah.
So my goal with I call it Metatron Movement, but it's my nonprofit. It's more about what I'm doing than the business itself, but it's an act of love through peer support, basically, is the concept. But I want to open by 2030 one of those kind of facilities to where like we'll help with rent or whatever, within guidelines, obviously, because it's a business too. But to open that by 2030 is my goal.
And would it be considered a nonprofit, or do you know like what it would necessarily be considered?
Yeah, it'd be considered a nonprofit.
Okay.
It's going to be called Metatron Movement. And then my ultimate goal with Metatron Movement is to open a treatment program that specializes in breath work.
Wow. Okay. That's really cool.
Through learning and studying and practicing yoga through the years, I've also found spirituality, which comes from breath. But the Bible also talks about breath. There's a whole lot. Never mind. I won't even go into that.
Nice. That would be interesting. Just to briefly touch on it. What is your view on religion being intertwined with helping people work through trauma and like difficult stuff?
I think Jesus says, "Give everybody love and forgive everybody, for they don't know."
Okay. Nice. And that's does that stem from your childhood, or is that something you've discovered more recently? Or
more recently, actually.
Okay.
So I found spirituality, and I started like when I found yoga, I found God. When I was in the midst of getting beaten, I was going to kill myself, and I was practicing yoga at the time, and I had kind of like mentioned to my ex that I had thought God was real for the first time in my life.
Because of the beating?
No, it was because of yoga.
Okay.
Because like the beating was not anything unnormal to me. Like that just was part of our relationship. So we had like It's
But it was
hard to
during
explain.
that time frame that you
I found yoga.
that. Okay.
I found yoga, and I was like, I think I'm starting to believe in God because of what I've experienced from the breath work of yoga.
Interesting. Wow.
And my boyfriend at the time, who was abusive to me, was like, oh, no way, read Job. And then I read the story of Job, and I started crying because I felt like Job's story was my life. And then also I looked up at the sky and was like, I'm going to kill myself. If you are real, show me. And then I was like, read the Bible, duh. I was like, oh,
Damn.
okay.
Wow, that is such a unique way of discovering spirituality, though. That's wild.
Yep. And now I experience spirituality on a different level. Like, I don't believe specifically in Christianity. I don't believe it's not. I believe that they're all different perspectives of the same thing.
Okay.
And we should just give love and peace to everybody because,
Nice.
you know.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Yeah, I've heard lots of people say that they love reading the Bible. They like the message that it gives, but maybe not necessarily believe that Jesus Christ was necessarily real, or maybe that he was a person, it's stories and
I have
stuff.
a whole different perspective on that.
What would you? I guess just on that specifically, do you believe Jesus Christ existed, or it was just a story to learn from?
I do believe Jesus Christ existed, but not in the perspective that Christianity views it.
Okay. Just
I
a different view
I
of
do
that.
believe that he was a meditative person who loved and spoke in stories.
Okay. That's cool.
Because also monks, for that context, monks do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I've learned from practicing yoga is humming meditations also are very calming. And those breath works and meditations and things like that have helped me. And he, through his stories, were like, we should love people no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And we should be kind to them, and we should love them, and we should feed them and clothe them if they need it, and wash their feet if they need it.
Mm-hmm.
And also other spiritual leaders do that same kind of concept. But
Right.
and I think the whole book of Revelations is just about a spiritual awakening and an understanding of meeting yourself in your depth of your pits of hell, because I've lived in hell and I've lived in peace.
Mm-hmm.
And I came from hell, and it was perspective.
Yeah, that makes me think of back in the day when I was more religious. I really liked that verse that talks about how make heaven on earth, or something. Heaven can be a place here on earth.
Exactly.
And so it would make me think maybe earth could be like heaven, but it could also be like hell, depending on how you live your life, right?
Perspective. And the way that I viewed my life back then was that hell was on earth. And now that I feel at peace on this earth and I find beauty in it every day, I feel like I'm in heaven. I have glimmers constantly. I have moments where people come up to me and tell me how amazing and supportive I am. I've had people come up to me in gas stations and be like, you understand? Please help me. My mom died when I was 5 and I was there. So to have that,
So, just because it's kind of piquing my curiosity now, what would you say your view on the afterlife is now that you've been through so much craziness? How would you envision an afterlife if there was one? Do you believe in an afterlife?
I do believe that we are spirits after that, and the reason that I say that is because and I don't know if I even want to say this, but I'm gonna say it. But I feel spirits with me a lot, and I don't know why I didn't want to say that, but I can get all weird about it. But I didn't until after my dad died, and it was I just got really calm in my perspective, and I found peace, and I also feel spirits.
Okay.
But I don't know.
So that gives you a sense of that there's
like.
probably something then.
But I don't know what it is, and it's too much. I don't need to know. I just trust what I feel.
I like that. So you have a good feeling that there's going to be something, but you're okay with not knowing what it is, basically.
Yeah, I don't need to know.
Okay.
My creator knows. That's all that I know.
Right. Okay.
I am no master. I know nothing.
Nice. Okay. Wow. That is fascinating, though. I like that. I think it's really important to, like, search within oneself and to find, like, I like that description of it, spirituality. Find what works for you, what makes you feel like heaven is more here on earth, you know? What makes you enjoy life more and more peace and all that. So that's really cool.
Jesus died for that. Also, in perspective, is like, and that is a Christianity view, but I feel it too. So
interesting. So you don't view it in a Christianity way, but you still feel a sense from his death is helping you in your life in some way?
I think the Bible has facts to it to a degree, but I think everybody needs to take away from it personally, not as a whole society telling you what is right and wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
From my understanding, what the word Bible stands for is before something. Oh, dang it! Now I can't remember what it stands
for. Is there
There's an acronym for it, yeah.
Okay. I don't know why, but a part of me was like, someone that's gone through that much craziness probably wouldn't believe in a creator, but...
I found it in the depths of me trying to kill myself.
Right, yeah.
I was literally... I had my suicide planned. Mm-hmm. And I said, if you are real, show me.
Damn.
And then my own voice was like, then read the Bible, duh. Basic instructions before leaving Earth.
Basic instructions before leaving Earth. Whoa, that's a cool acronym.
Yeah.
Basic instructions before leaving Earth. Huh. Okay. That is cool. I've never heard that before.
I don't remember where I found it, but then I Googled it. Somebody told me, and I was like, no fucking way. And then I Googled it, and I was like, whoa, that's a thing? That's a thing.
How cool, though, if it really was, because I could see that correlating with making sense, because the Bible is one of the only books that survived so freaking long, you know? It is impressive how it's still around when it should be dust by now.
What I read from it and what I get told from Christianity is two different things, so...
Yeah, that's the hard thing, is like, they all claim they read from the same book, but then there's hundreds of different religions? Like, that's odd. They all interpret it differently.
But what's funny is it says it's one creator.
I know, right? One
so
God.
If one person is saying, but think about it though, it's like, we can't read all those other different languages. So we're just guessing what it's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yep.
Wow. Well, this was fun.
Yeah.
Any last thing you want to go into before we call it good, or how you feeling? This went on longer than expected.
Sure. I told you I didn't think it was going to last half an hour.
Okay.
But I don't think so. The main thing that I wanted to share was how important breathwork was for healing some of my trauma. And it's a continuous process, but think about it. Like, if you go to the doctor with anxiety, the first thing they say is take deep diaphragmatic breaths.
Isn't that so funny? It's like our body, while we sleep, while everything else, it can just breathe. It just knows what to do. But as soon as we got trauma or something stressful presented in front of us, it just forgets it, basically.
It's because we haven't processed that trauma, so we're putting it in our bodies and we're causing blockages. So once we've cleared those blockages, then we no longer have that struggle.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yep.
Okay. It was Cheyanna?
Cheyanna.
Cheyanna. Well, thank you, Cheyanna. This is awesome. If you want to send any of those YouTube videos, I could put them in the description below.
Oh, okay.
Would you be down for a follow-up video if we get like enough comments or questions and things like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Sweet. Well, that should be motivation for you all to ask questions, ask Cheyanna things about her life, anything that you might be going through, if it's similar or correlates, or just you want to share it or get to know more about her. I think that would be awesome. So, well, thanks once again, and hopefully we can do one in the future.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Awesome.